Welcome back. This is episode 69 of the What Do We Do podcast. And on today's show, we're taking a deep dive into the Lucky Finn Project. Joining me in studio is the founder, Molly Stapelman, and the inspiration behind it all, Ryan Stapelman. It's going to be a great show, so let's go.
Welcome to What Do We Do? A podcast discussing wealth management and financial planning featuring key leaders in our communities. Hosted by founder and CEO of Great Lakes Wealth, Dewey Do. Tune in to hear how you can plan for and live your best life.
Well, we're back for another guest episode of the What Do We Do podcast, where we bring in leaders of the community who have a story to tell, knowledge to share, and advice to give. And we have them come on in and share with our community so that we all just don't survive, but we thrive. And today I'm joined by Molly and Ryan Stapelman. Molly, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
And they are part of an amazing organization called the Lucky Finn Project. Ladies, have you heard of this?
Vaguely. Rings a bell a little bit.
Once or twice?
Might have. Might.
Okay, well, we're going to get into it. So hopefully you can blow off the cover of the program and we're going to get into it, okay? So for all of you out there listening and watching, I want to thank you for tuning in and remind you to subscribe, download, share this podcast. We have over 1.5 million total views on social media with over 50,000 direct downloads. We can't do it without your help. And so thank you so much for where you've gotten us to, and we appreciate where you're going to get us to go. So with that, I want to talk about the Lucky Finn Project. And for those of you listening and watching, Molly founded the Lucky Finn Project, and Ryan was the inspiration behind it. So with that, I'm going to ask, what is the latest with the Lucky Finn Project?
Let's see, we just came out of our annual LFP weekend, which was obviously on hiatus for a good 2 years. Thank you, pandemic. So we just had that in mid to late July, and that was the biggest turnout we've had since. I think it kind of still was suppressed a little bit by COVID. And frankly, the cost of airfare and travel for a lot of families, and it was a difficult time to make choices about finances and the travel. But we had over 800 people come from 26 states, Canada, Saudi Arabia, and Mexico this year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what was the purpose of this Lucky Finn Project Jamboree?
Well, it's really, I put it on as kind of a love letter to the community. It's kind of a crazy sort of family reunion of people who maybe have met or have never met in person and have only been engaged with each other through social media. And we bring it in, we rent out a park, we have a hotel, it's all catered. Troy Police and Fire come in, the K-9 unit does a demonstration, and it's really just an excuse to get us all together in the same place, face-to-face, finally.
And I think that is awesome. And as we share the Lucky Finn Project story with our audience, they will also understand why it was so important for you to put this together before the pandemic and now again after the pandemic, right?
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people really hurt during the pandemic and missed that opportunity to unite with our community, because we are such a unique community. So our time together is sort of few and far between in person. We're all very connected in social media, but then to have literally 2 years where we couldn't be together was a real challenge, and so people were really, really hungry for it this year. So it made this year just even better.
And I was able to see some of the photos that you posted on social media, and it just looked like there was so much joy and so much love. It was amazing. Yeah. But I think this is enough of a tease for all of those that are listening and watching to what the heck is the Lucky Finn Project. And because I want to pretend that I know a little bit, I do know there's this movie called Finding Nemo. And I have no idea if there's any correlation between Finding Nemo and the Lucky Finn Project, but please, let's go ahead and start from the beginning and
Sure.
give us the down and dirty about how it all came about.
Well, number one, you're completely correct that
Booyah.
that there is definitely a correlation between Finding Nemo and the name of the organization. So back in 2007, I gave birth to Ryan, and everything was real smooth and everything. And then when she arrived, we discovered that she was not born with a fully developed right hand. She had a thumb and a smaller palm, but other than that, no fingers. It wasn't something that was detected on the ultrasound, so it was a complete surprise for us. We had no idea. I don't recall panicking or anything like that. I do remember when kind of like got out of the OR and everybody kind of left us alone, and we had some time to like settle in the room, Ryan's father, Ryan, and myself. There obviously you've got a couple things in play. I've just given birth to a human being. I had 16 hours of labor, and pregnant women are all jacked up on hormones. So there's a lot going on. And then throw in her unexpected hand difference. I just got super emotional, and I started what I refer to as the worry train, which is very common with new parents, whether they find out before their child's born or at the time of birth, all the what ifs. And in no other scenario do you think necessarily of having a 3-hour-old baby and starting to wonder about how they're going to drive. And so you're leaping way, way ahead instead of being in the moment and being so excited.
As we always say, Ryan, on this show, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, I mean, listen, 3 hours old, but you are going to drive. You are going to do those other things. So again, I'm kind of teasing just to kind of lighten the moment, but totally get it. So it must have been emotions all over the board.
All over the place. And, what about the monkey bars? What if she wants to play the piano? What about painting her fingernails and she's not going to have 10 like her friends? Clearly that's not an issue because, we got all 6 painted. But you just start that, and then why her, why us? And as the mother, you kind of feel like it's your job to grow the baby, right? So I immediately started to backtrack and, what did I do wrong? Did I exercise too much? Was it that glass of wine I had in November when I didn't realize I was pregnant yet? All this stuff, and why her, why us, and all this stuff. And Ryan's dad had a really beautiful moment where he just said, you know what? She's never going to know any different. We're not going to treat her any different. Instead of saying, why her, why us? How about why not her and why not us? We got her for a reason. And I never thought it would be would turn into where we are now. But we just took it as okay. And that it was just kind of a shift in my mindset. And we're like, okay, we got this. And so we were completely great with you. We're absolutely in love with you. You were perfection. The next part was, what is this? This wasn't in the baby books. I've never heard of this before. It was never on my radar until she arrived. I had no knowledge of a congenital limb difference. My only experience with the limb different community were amputees, were veterans, people with traumatic limb loss, or who had to have something amputated due to illness. So it never occurred to me that you could just be born that way. So the next part was to, get in there with the medical professionals. So the next time the pediatrician came in, I was, I said, so what about her hand? And she literally said, oh, that just sometimes happens. And it was kind of like, really? That's the best you got for me? And I was kind of blown away. I kind of thought that they would take the lead and be like, okay, so I understand there was an unexpected occurrence. Do you have any questions? What can you do for? I didn't get any of that.
Because I do know, I've got 3 children of my own, as you're aware, and I do know that they know how to make sure that your baby can breastfeed. They come on in. Yep. They have lactation specialists. They're happy to show you to latch on. They spend a half of a day making sure that you can feed your baby.
Yeah.
But
feed your baby, wash your baby, swaddle your baby, all that stuff. Nobody came in and said, how are you doing with this? It's kind of a perfect storm for postpartum and things like that. So they're looking to fit me with nursing bras. And I'm like, okay, but her hand, what else And so
is it because it's not that severe to where if you're born without a whole arm or you have other things? I mean, is it? And again, on top of that, I'm sure we'll get into it. But
Yeah.
I imagine that what year were you born again?
2007.
Correct. Good answer. You got it right. Oh, you passed that test. Ring the bell. Ding, ding, ding. I'm assuming, again, a lot of it's because of your efforts, frankly, but, technology or just understanding and acceptance and education has improved since 2007,
oh yeah, it's a
for sure.
total Lucky Fin project has completely changed the game.
Booyah again to the Staplemans. But on that note, so back in 2007, you're just in shock. Your first child?
First biological child. Yes.
First biological child. So this is how it is. This is how it is. It's normal. And drop you in the middle of the room and say, we'll see you when she's 18.
Yeah, it was just, so I was like, okay, so nobody's saying anything. So the next time that somebody comes in, I'm going to get like a little bit more aggressive with my questioning, because I thought that they were going to maybe spoon feed me a little bit and go, okay, so here's the information and this is what you need to know. And, there's everything else is good. There's no other anomalies. It's just her hand. She's perfectly healthy, which was all true. But nobody said anything. So the next time the pediatrician came in, I said, okay, so I know you said that this just sometimes happens. Can you tell me why? Does it have a name? And she's like, oh, well, it looks like ABS. And again, I'm like, and what is that? I don't know what that means. And then she said, well, amniotic band syndrome. And I'm like, I have no idea. She vaguely gave me a description, and I won't go into it because it's actually not what caused Ryan's hand difference. It's very common that synbrachydactyly, which is what Ryan's like technical.
Can we dumb it down for us home gamers?
Yeah.
Do we have like initials or abbreviations, or what do we call it on the street?
On the street, we call it Lucky. We call it a Lucky Fin.
Okay, you got the Lucky Fin.
We call it the Lucky Fin. So again, circling back to the Nemo part of it. So in Finding Nemo, Nemo was born with one little fin smaller than the other, and his dad affectionately called it his Lucky Fin. And after Ryan was born, she has two older sisters, and so she was in tow with them to their soccer games. And, when, I came in and was the room mom at school and stuff. And so kids are naturally curious and very naturally unfiltered, which is completely understandable. And at the time they were 7 and 10, and they would have friends who would come up and say, what happened to the baby's hand? And I would say, well, nothing happened to her hand. She was just born that way. And they'd give me a confused look. And I understand, because I had been there, whereas I don't understand what you're talking about. And so I just said, well, have you seen the movie Finding Nemo? And you know how Nemo has one fin smaller than the other, but he went to school and he was very brave and he swam across the ocean, had lots of friends. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, she's like Nemo. We call her hand her Lucky Fin. And they're like, okay, cool. So it just made it relatable, and it wasn't something scary for the kids, right? So it was, now they had something to pin it back to. And a lot of kids just would let it go, or they'd follow up with, oh, that's super cool. My favorite response was this one little boy immediately looked at his best friend and goes, oh, you know whose dad has 6 toes? Like, it was just like, they just, 7-year-olds. So we just kind of nicknamed Ryan's right hand her Lucky Fin hand. And that just kind of stuck. Little did we know that other people literally across the globe also were referring to their child's limb differences as a Lucky Fin. Had no idea. And it was after she was about 2 or 3, I was doing some research to figure out about her. And because, again, it's not in the baby books. Everything I found online was very clinical. It was made for medical professionals.
And you're a scientist by trade, right?
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely.
You read encyclopedias. You go to Wikipedia.
Sure.
You're actually like a non-practicing physician.
Absolutely, 100%.
Rocket scientist turned, I don't know,
philanthropist? I don't know.
Well, you are definitely
what do we want to say?
But again, we're being a little, we're teasing a little bit that you're a mom.
Yeah.
You're an average, everyday, amazing mom person, but no more special or less special, and trying to figure this out.
No. And so I did what all the parents do, what they do now. It's just different because now Lucky Fin exists, but you get online And you start looking up stuff, and everything I found was not digestible as a mother. It was all patient A presents with blah, blah, blah. And how do I take that, something so unfeeling and textbooky, and attach it to my daughter, who I absolutely love and adore? So it didn't fit. It was helpful with some of the information, got into like some online groups, and was researching again. We were still under the impression that her hand difference was amniotic band syndrome. Just talking to other parents was helpful, and we could share photos in a private area. It was through that group somebody suggested that perhaps it wasn't amniotic band syndrome that had affected Ryan's hand, that it was brachydactyly. And I said, that sounds like a dinosaur. I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's nearly a year old, and nobody has said anything about this to me. So
when you would go in for like the pediatric early baby, checkups and things, is it just like
they didn't
want to talk about it? Just kind of
it's not, when it's not their expertise.
Yeah.
They don't say anything. Nobody says anything. They don't. And we did take her to a hand specialist. We did get a referral to a hand specialist. We took her in, and again, we were like, they took an X-ray of her hand at that time, and she's under a year. So, and we just said, are we supposed to do something? Because we've seen some stuff online that are talking about bone transfers from the foot to the hand to create. And he just said, I wouldn't, if she was my child, I wouldn't touch her. He's like, this is all she's ever going to know. This is the only body she's going to ever know. It's not like you or I had an unfortunate incident with the chainsaw and suddenly lost our fingers and now have to learn how to relearn our body with everything we have. And that was kind of, he's like, if you want to bring her back in a year when her bones are a little bit more calcified and we can kind of get a better idea of like the internal whatever of her hand, you can do that. And I think we got to the parking lot, and her dad and I looked at each other, and I'm like, you good? And he's like, I'm good. And I'm like, all right, cool. And we never went back to a hand specialist again because we just didn't feel the need. And then we just watched her grow up and develop as a toddler and crawl and pick things up. And one of the things that we said around the house watching her develop and everything was 10 fingers overrated, which is a play on the perfect baby, 10 fingers, 10 toes. And that actually, 10 fingers overrated, is one of our, it's one of our hashtags, it's one of our slogans, that's on a bunch of our t-shirts, and it's probably one of our best-selling shirts to create, funding for the project and everything. So it's just, you just don't know, and until you see it, you know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of what the fear is the unknown. When you have no reference point and you haven't seen this before, you don't know what to expect. And now with Lucky Finn Project and with like LFP Weekend and our social media posts on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, now parents can get that snapshot of what a 2-year-old looks like, what a 4-year-old looks like, what a 15-year-old looks like, what a doctor without 10 fingers looks like. And so it eliminates that fear. I tell parents all the time, don't take anything off the table. Don't assume that your kid won't be able to do something because they don't have 10 fingers or 2 hands. Let them try. Let them figure it out. And, if they want to figure out how to play guitar, they'll figure out how to play guitar. Let them figure out what their passion is and then pursue that. And sometimes things just kind of fall together naturally, and sometimes there's a lot of trial and error and workarounds, but it's all possible. And once you get that figured out, these kids just launch. It's just incredible to watch, and I see it over and over again.
So, Ryan, we're going to talk about you launching here in a minute, okay? We're going to bring that up, but let's talk about when did you launch Lucky Finn Project and what went from a concerned and involved mother to someone who now wants this on, not even wants it, it just is now on the national, actually the global stage, right? So again, kudos to you and great for being the inspiration, okay? Booyah to ya. But please, like when did it become a formal 501c3 and all that fun stuff?
First created what we called Lucky Finn Project back in 2010. And it was literally just a group of online parents. Facebook had just sort of became more mainstream at that point, and I was talking to
like groups. There were Facebook
groups,
and
right? And so you could
yeah.
kind of like feel that out. And I was talking to literally a mother in Washington, one in Greece, one in Australia, and one in Indiana. And we all had daughters who were about the same age. They were all born with a hand difference. We would share things back and forth, our concerns. Just knowing you weren't alone was already so powerful, right? And then on accident, this is also your fault, by the way.
Great.
The bracelets. Long story short, I was at a bead store buying some beads to make some bracelets for myself and some friends. And Ryan just happened to be, tiny 3-year-old at the right height to look into this case and sees these beads. And she's like, Mama, those look like Nemo. And I looked at them, and they're these little orange oval beads with a white silvery stripe through the middle. And yeah, it looks like a clownfish. And I just said to her, I said, okay, babe, you pick one out and I'll make you a Lucky Fin bracelet. Had no idea what I was saying. Had no, nothing. Again, so much of the growth of Lucky Fin Project has been so organic. I literally just always feel like I'm just sort of, sometimes like I'm the director of the train, and sometimes I'm like holding on to the caboose for dear life. So it varies on a given date or a given hour, depending on what's going on. But so she picked out the bead, and I made some bracelets, and I told the other parents about it. I'm like, you want a Lucky Fin bracelet? And they said yes. And I had no idea where that would roll into. It was just going to be kind of like a unity thing between these mothers that we had talked to. And word got out, and then I started getting requests from other people from around the world. And then it turned into, well, how do we make this happen? So initially it was just about the bracelets and funding the bracelets and funding the shipping. And then it really, as all these people came in for these bracelets, it really showed me what kind of need there was out there for this sense of community and also pride. There were pride in wearing the Lucky Fin bracelets, and parents, families would order 12, and then I'd get pictures of a bunch of wrists with them all in. It was super cool. And people would use the bracelets on their newborns' baby photos. I'm like, what an honor. I'm like, I made that, and that's their newborn's baby. They don't know me, but they knew that this Lucky Fin bracelet connected them to a community, which was very, very small at the time. So eventually you have to incorporate before you can become a 501c3 and create a board and do all that stuff. So in time, we finally got our certification as a 501c3, and then it was just let's go. But even then it was well, what do we do first? we got the bracelets, but now what? Now that we're getting some money a little bit here and there, what do we do? Was
this still 2010 roughly?
This would have been, that was probably, I think we officially got our certification in 2012. So, that's when we could formally operate as a nonprofit. Before, we were basically just a support group. But
how many people were in the support group at that time? 2010, 2012, not exactly, but how many families? Hundreds, thousands, maybe 5, just
no,
you and your neighbors?
No, there was definitely several hundred, if not thousands. See, that's the thing too. And you don't, that's, we, initially I was counting things by how many bracelets we sent out. And now I just,
And the reason I bring it up is because, listen, to our audience out there listening and viewing, if you have no idea, please go check out, what's the URL? LuckyFinProject.org?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
So check it out. Go see what's going on there. But I'm going to tell you, in the last 28 days alone, here at the end of 2022, you have reached over 4 million people. Am I right?
Correct.
4 million people in the last 28 days.
In 28 days.
Okay. You have almost 100,000 Facebook followers.
Correct.
You have 75,000 Instagram followers.
Yes.
From what Ryan told me earlier, you have helped hundreds of thousands of families around the globe in under, I don't know, call it 10 years,
Sure.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
So it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. You're on your way. As we always say on this show, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
You're just getting started.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
I want people to understand where we are.
Sure.
But again, certainly the trials and tribulations along the way.
Sure.
So we're back in 2012. You just incorporated.
Yep.
You have a board. You have all the CEOs like Elon Musk and the Ford Motor Company chairman. And you've got the Queen from England. And all these people are just hanging out. And they come and fly in. And you guys have this Lucky Fin Project weekend. And it's hang out, right?
Yeah, effortless.
Okay, effortless, right.
Yeah. So the first thing that we did was do what I needed, what I had hoped I would get when I was in the hospital when I found out about my daughter's limb difference, which was create awareness brochures. Something that if the doctors aren't going to, if it's out of their expertise and they feel that they're not qualified to talk about it, and you know, it would have also been nice to have a doctor go, actually say that to me. You know what? This is out of my expertise. Let me go look into this for you, or but it was interesting. Like I just felt like they kind of just left us hanging for
and
information.
I'm going to ask real quick. So
yeah.
for those that are in our local community of Metro Detroit,
Yep.
Okay, we have 3 world-class children's hospitals, and that would be Children's in Detroit, that would be Mott out in Ann Arbor, and that would be Beaumont Children's Hospital in Royal Oak and the other campuses around, right?
Yeah.
So with those, this is, again, a great place to take
Sure.
pediatric patients that have some issues, some challenges, and have a community that comes around and helps. So I'm assuming that, again, it still was not necessarily taboo, but it wasn't like the number one thing going on at these children's facilities.
No, I asked the nurse on the maternity ward. I said, how long have you been working, in the maternity ward? And she's like, oh, my career of 15 years. And I said, Have you ever seen this before? And she said, no. And I was like, whoa. She's like, oh, we see a lot of club feet and cleft palates and things like that, but I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this before. I was kind of taken aback by that at the time. Again, this is back in 2007, and so much has changed since then. But so what I wanted to do is create those awareness brochures. So if the doctors and the nurses or whomever can't talk about it, then they can at least hand over this. And I also wanted those to be very welcoming. I didn't want them to be clinical and like what to do once you discover your child has a limb difference. I wanted it to be an invitation. I wanted it to be like, all right, this is a group for you. And I wanted it to be colorful and friendly and digestible information. And then an invitation to check out the website and see what we're doing. And so that's how we started. And then again, organic growth. We had our Lucky Fin families going to see their specialists at all these world-class hospitals, at Mott, at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, at Texas Scottish Rite, at Shriners, and they would go in and wear their Lucky Fin Project t-shirts and wear their bracelets and educate those doctors about this resource. And now it's come all the way around where instead of no information, it was my child was born at the hospital. They gave me your brochure and I've been following you for 6 months and this is amazing. And now, Shriners, Boston's Children's, Cincinnati Children's, Texas Scottish Rite, Cleveland Clinic, U of M Mott, Children's Hospital in Colorado, all those organizations now refer their patients to Lucky Fin Project. So it's like, that's wild to me. I'm like so grateful. Because initially it was literally like knocking on doors 12 years ago and being like, hi, like trying to help. But they're like, who are you? I don't know who you are. But so our families showing up and showing these doctors the value of community. And it's not just about, can we do some surgery on the hand to make it look different or whatever like that. And, I'm all for surgeries that make the hand more functional if needed and if wanted. Surgery is definitely not for everybody. But what Ryan and I found is we actually spoke at a conference in Denver a number of years ago, and we were on the guest panel at a pediatric, it's like the global pediatric hand surgeon something. So we have these people from like all around the world sitting there, and they're going through, different medical things all day. And we were kind of like the lighter side of, I was the mother raising a child with a limb difference. She's the child growing up with a limb difference. And how do we feel about it? And we finished our little talk and our presentation. There was some Q&A, and we got done. And everybody was able to like break and go for coffee or use the restroom, whatever they needed to do. We had a line of people who wanted to talk to us from different hospitals and talk about the impact that we had had on their patients. And I actually had a hand surgeon say, because of Lucky Fin Project and because of the community you've created, it's changed the way we approach our job, because we're finding that it's not about quote unquote fixing the hand. It's about making sure these people know that they're not alone. So there was a complete shift. And so it was something it didn't occur to me that it would affect it would affect the hand surgeon's role in their care of these patients and looking after the families. But it has, and I'm so grateful that they continue to share that information and help people find us and be that bridge so we can minimize that sense of feeling that you're isolated, Yeah,
I like that. And I'm going to pivot right now.
Sure.
Okay. Ryan, we're going to bring you onto the mic, and we're going to take what your mom just said. And as she said, like with the physicians and the panel you were on and talking about limb difference from the medical and the adult and the parents and getting engaged and trying to have this community, right? Well, there's a whole bunch of kids out there that have the limb difference. They are the Nemos. Fair? What were your kind of thoughts as you're on this panel, or just, the Lucky Fin Project, as you've seen it grow and evolve, how has it helped you, particularly as the inspiration? What did you call it earlier, Molly?
I called it the catalyst.
The catalyst. So we're going to put it out there so that it's been said.
Yeah.
The catalyst, the inspiration. So, that has to kind of either put a little pressure on you, but again, hopefully helped you along the way. But for all the other kids out there, from the babies on up to the later teens, how has the Lucky Fin Project helped them? Because it seems to help doctors and the parents.
Well, I feel like it's definitely given them a lot more confidence in whatever, and like feeling that they're not alone. And then they're making like at LFP weekend, there's a ton more like at the first day, there's like a ton of like nerves and like shyness and whatever. But like as the weekend goes on, you see like so many different kids just like making friends, having fun, running around, like all that stuff. So again, like feeling that they're not alone, and then just like seeing older kids and like older people just like doing what they wanted to in their life and whatever. It gives them a lot more confidence to just like feel like they can go through with what they want to do and their goals and their dreams in life. And like, yes, there's going to be obstacles in the way, but it's not necessarily because of their difference. It's just like how life is, like it's just going to be a little thing that's about them. Like it's not going to like change anything really.
One of the acronyms at our office, and you've heard the acronym TEAM before, TEAM, and we like to say together everyone achieves more, meaning that if you have a strong community and everyone can either lift each other up or you can share, that's community, Others have said before that teamwork makes the dream work. There's some truth to that too, but I think that's what you're saying, is that you can use the platform of LFP or LFP weekend to really let everyone know that they're not alone and that there is some togetherness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then at LFP weekend, we hear this a lot, and these kids come in and all of a sudden they're not the two-handed people are the default. We're the default. And these kids with their hand differences, or if whether they're just their fingers or their palm, or they're missing a full forearm or something different, they come into this room and there's other people like them. It's your kindred. And so these kids who normally walk into a situation where there's hundreds of people who are usually shy, they're like just out loud and proud. And it goes for the adults too. As the organization has grown, we have more and more people finding us as adults for the first time. And I had one adult say to me, she said, Finding Lucky Finn Project was like being released from an island. And she's like 36 years old. And I just thought, whoa, to feel isolated and not completely, she's not adrift at sea, but to feel that you're just on an island of your own. And she was married and has kids and everything. But again, that sense of community and stuff. So I think last LFP weekend, we had more limb different adults attend more than ever. And there's a real healing there for that demographic of the community.
So let's talk about that a little bit, which is the ADA and just organizations that are there to help, provide inclusion and adaptive, opportunities. So like with that, and whether it's, part of the mission of Lucky Finn or just, I don't know where you are and where you're going, how does that all fit into it?
As far as what Lucky Finn Project does with like our funding or what our goals are? I mean, sure.
Kind of just all of it in general.
Yeah. So, as again, the number one part is creating a network and community of individuals, families around the globe to provide education, and not just to the limb different community. We're not just we don't want to just talk in a bubble. We just don't want to talk to like our people. We want to educate everybody. So that's why our Facebook page is a public page, because it is there for education. Because we do want people who aren't part of the limb different community to get a look at what our community is doing and see that it's not that different. We're all just people, and everybody has a difference, whether it's physical or something else. And so, we can remove that stigma or any feeling of like, oh, that's sad. I remember having Ryan in a store with me she was a little baby, and two older women came by and they smiled and I smiled, and they went into the next aisle, and I heard one of the women said, "What a beautiful baby, but did you see her hand?" And I was like, oh, I was walking her home in her stroller. She's too little. She wouldn't have remembered, but I'm talking to her out loud. And I'm like, you don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. You are beautiful. There's no but, or anything beside her hand. I'm like, your hand is part of you. You're beautiful. All of you beautiful. I was just like all mama beared up. But, so yeah, to find that, again, that sense of community and that thread of knowing you're not alone, even if you're not all together at the same time, is super important. And then, we live in a whole different world where these kids now can like FaceTime each other. So it doesn't matter that, Luca is in California, and, wants to talk to somebody who lives in, Iowa. They can FaceTime, they can see each other. So that I think that's extremely important. And then the parents can network. And there's so many like subgroups on Facebook. We have chapter pages for various locations, all sorts of stuff where they can be more centralized and talk on a smaller platform that's private.
I'll ask the question for all those that are listening and watching. If you're the parent or the child that can now figure it out, say, include me, or I need some help, or where do I go?
Sure. There's a growing number of children's books that feature limb different characters, which is wonderful. And then beyond that, there's all sorts of different adaptive tools that from, the easy hold silicone cuffs that you can put on to create a handle on something that wouldn't otherwise have one. Ryan's used that before to play Just Dance, so she can better hold the controller in her right hand. Because to play that, you have to hold it in your right hand. What else is there, Rye? Of course, we have the prosthetics.
My Velcro stuff that I would use for gym.
Yeah.
So in elementary school, you have those like, I don't know what you would call them, signified. Like every year, you had to do these certain amount of like exercises so they can see like
physical fitness tests.
Yeah, physical fitness tests, and like just see like where you're at and like take the average and whatever. So one of the exercises we had to do was we had to do pull-ups. And with me, I mean, I could, but I can't do that much because I can't grip. I can only I can, but it pinches, and that doesn't have like a lot of.
Listen, come on, just take it. Use your
I know.
Bit.
That's what I do.
I
just hold it, like get the bar under here,
okay.
and it works. but I can only do so many, and I can't use much of my muscle because everything's focused on like my wrist.
Putting all
All right, can you do one at least like this?
Yeah.
Okay, so listen, when I was your age, I couldn't look at these little skinny arms I got. Okay, I don't have a limb difference, and I couldn't even do one. I had to like kind of put the bar down and just like kind of snap it with my toes. Okay, so anyway, I got you, but yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So what we ended up getting for her was not something that's made for the limb different community. There's so many hacks that the limb different community uses that's not made specifically for the limb different community. And it was an arm lifting hook. So it's just this kind of like wraparound Velcro
thing. And then there's like this metal.
Yeah.
Say it's metal.
Yeah.
Metal, like just like two little like hooks
right
at the end.
Yeah.
And you strap that on and you put it in and you just do how many you can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was, and we talked to the gym teacher and said, "Are you okay with this adaptation?" And he's like, "Yeah, cool, yeah." So, and that's another thing that we've been really fortunate with is all your teachers and everything have been really cool about letting you figure out your own way, like how you're going to type and
very nice, very accepting.
Yep, yeah, we've been really fortunate.
All right, well, we're going to pivot one more time.
Yeah,
a couple more pivots here. So there's a part of the show that we're entering into, my favorite part. Instead of it being called What Do We Do, we're going to go to part of the show we call What Ryan Do and What Molly Do. And what that means is if Molly could go back to her 18-year-old self or, being a brand new mom to Ryan, what would you do that, again, those that are in that situation today could learn from you? And I'm going to give Ryan a little bit extra time to get her mind right around it to where I'm going to ask you the same thing. But since you can't even go back to your 18 because we're not even there yet, we're going to go back to, again, what would you say to someone who's in elementary school or just starting out, in junior high that is in the similar situation that you were in then? What you would tell them, as whether it's inspiration or tell them to suck it up. I don't even know. Whatever you're going to tell them that you would wish someone had told you at the time. Okay? Fair? So, Mom, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
What Molly do?
I would go back and tell my new mom self that how you talk to your child about their confidence and about their body is how you are going to give them that blueprint to gain that confidence and that self-acceptance later in life. It really starts with the parent. I mean, I think about it. I mean, if you're like, sorry, only the blue-eyed guys can do that. So that, so to say to Ryan, oh, well, you don't have 10 fingers, so you're not going to be able to do that. To push her and allow her to find her own way to do things and let her figure stuff out herself and not be so eager to help and like, oh, well, let me get that for you and do all this stuff. So you really help find that that positive voice for themselves before they can find it for themselves, for their own. And don't be so hard on yourself. I was so hard on myself and everything.
It's all your fault.
It was all my fault.
It's always been your fault.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's it. And not knowing and not having any information made it feel like it was my fault and I felt terribly isolated. And so that's why the growth of Lucky Fin Project has been so important and so valuable to so many people. And my intention was like, if I can just alleviate the worry for one, then I'm good.
Mission accomplished.
And we are way beyond one now.
So I've heard and so I've shared.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Heck
you.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, you're up. What would Ryan do?
If I could go back, I would tell my young self to get ready for COVID.
Okay.
In all honesty, though.
Okay, right.
I mean, I would, but not really. But in all honesty, like, my answer isn't really about my hand because my hand hasn't really, like, yes, it's a part of me, but it hasn't really, like, affected my life. And, like, these questions are so difficult to answer for me because so many people, like expect, like, a sad, like, sob story that, like, oh, I've been bullied for the past, like, 4 years of my life, and it's been really hard. And that's just not me. Like, yes, people go through that, and that's really, like, unfortunate, and, like, people are awful. But, like, for most people that I know from the limb different community, they don't really go through that, and I'm one of them. So I think I would just say, like, things are going to change like a lot mentally, and you're going to be like going through some stuff, and you just got to be like, be ready, be yourself, just like communicate a lot like about your feelings, and just like have fun, enjoy the moment, like never really get too hard on yourself, because that'll like really help you more in the future if you don't do that.
Words from the wise. I love it. There's a song out there that goes back decades, and I think the song is actually like about women and what they can do, you know, compared to what a man can do. But the lyric goes something like this: anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
Yeah.
Right. So I always, whenever, I hear about anybody who's has some struggles and just, maybe having an uphill fight, or maybe they're just, they're just discriminated against for whatever it is. I always kind of just put that in my head, and either if I can help them or just let them know they can do it, or in my personal life, the things that I feel challenges with, I kind of, again, it's not a song for gender. It's not a song for limbs. It's not a song for anyone. It's a song for everyone.
Sure.
So I kind of think that's my little 2 cents for the show. And we're not done, so we're going to pivot again. But thank you so much for that, Ryan and Molly. But now let's talk about the future, and the future of Lucky Finn and the future of Ryan. However, I'm going to give a little bit of some color to, there was a Michigan baseball player. It was Jim Abbott.
Jim Abbott,
And he was the star of the show when I was growing up. I went to U of M, Go Blue. I remember watching him pitch and going, holy moly, he's moving his glove from the one arm to pitch and throw it back out. And he's certainly not the only person to play baseball that can do that, but he's one of only a few. I actually have 2 other friends besides Ryan that have limb differences. Shout out to my man, Darren Murray. He's missing part of his lower arm, and he played high school and college lacrosse. He's also left-handed like I am, and so we play golf, and he...
Give it up for another left-hander.
Left-handed, blow it up, booyah. Well, again, to my man Murray, D Money, you know who you are. You've beat me once or twice at a round of golf, and I did play golf in college, by the way, and he's beat me. And so I don't really think he's got any type of limb difference. This guy, when we're playing golf, his limb works just fine.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
And I have another one, Louis Boudreau. So my man, Louis, same thing. He has more of what we call, and again, I don't want to disrespect anybody, please, but he calls it his claw.
Sure.
So he's got some, missing a finger or two, and it's a little shorter than the other hand. And so he also plays golf, and he has also beat me a few times. So from a collegiate golfer who does not have a limb difference, anything I can do, they can do better.
So, you mentioned Jim Abbott earlier, and he's, yes, he went to U of M and just an amazing person. And actually, with Jim, when I was researching stuff after Ryan was born, Jim was the only person I could find on the internet in the public eye with a limb difference. So he was like the GOAT from the beginning, like everything's Jim Abbott. And we met him at a book signing in Ann Arbor when Ryan was about 4. And, and then you cut to where we're at now. And, I've got Jim calling me asking, or actually he emailed me and asked me if he could have my home phone number because he had some questions for me. And he said that he felt that Lucky Finn Project was the most well-known, most valued organization within the limb different community. And to have that come from, he was the only person I'd ever seen, to 10 years later, him telling you how valuable he thinks Lucky Finn is, was just I was I'm just going to sit down in my kitchen right now and trying to be cool on the phone, but no. But so Jim was most famous for pitching a no-hitter for the New York Yankees. And so that was that's one of his big things. And then now we're seeing more and more limb different athletes in mainstream professional sports. So we had Shaquem Griffin, who played 4 seasons and played for Seattle Seahawks, and then I believe the Miami Dolphins before he retired. And then right now we've got our girl Carson Pickett, who we've also met when Ryan was younger. She's another soccer player.
And some media.
Yeah, she's getting a lot of media right now, which is really awesome because it's great for her. And then it again, it shines a light on the limb different community. So Carson's playing right now for the North Carolina Courage, and then she has several times now gotten called up to play with the women's national team. So she's the first limb different player for the women's national team, which is just remarkable. And it's really put her in a different spotlight, not just as, what an incredible soccer player, but she's unique in the fact that she does have this physical difference, but she's playing professional sports. So actually our San Diego chapter just organized a meetup, and we paid for their tickets to all go see Carson and have a meet and greet with her after the game. So it's just special. And then again, it gives, when it's mainstream sports, whether it's baseball or soccer or football, when there's a limb different athlete out there playing, that sparks a conversation for all the people who aren't part of the limb different community. And I think it, again, takes away that stigma of thinking this person is somehow handicapped, or how could they ever possibly do that? Well, they are doing it, and they're doing it on a professional level. Nobody's like, oh yeah, just let them on the team so they'll feel better about themselves. Like, inclusion's great, but they earn their spot there. So that's just, again, it's just really cool to see, and we're seeing more of that in mainstream sports, and then other than that, we see a lot of it in advertising now.
And there are even, I think at Target might be one of the most forward thinking or out there with their clothing lines, right? Yeah,
they've got adaptive clothing lines that are out now. And then actually one of my ambassadors, Jaleesa Graham, is a model for Target. You can go on the website and find her. And then our good friend Madison Tout, for 2 years now, she is their in-store signage athletic campaign, and she is born without a hand. And I can't tell you how many times I get somebody sending me a picture of Madison's, posing in Target with their little kid next to them. And they're so proud to see somebody like them in the middle of Target. Like, who doesn't love Target? Target's like everything, right? So you go in there, and then these kids get to see somebody like them.
They identify with it. And then not only for the kids, I've talked to adults who say seeing that kind of representation in a mainstream scenario, whether it's, there's so many people are doing it now, which is so wonderful. It's kind of like we're the next minority to be included, and we just happen to be limb different. But so many adults have said to me, if I had seen something like this as a child growing up, it really would have affected my self-esteem in a positive way. So it's kind of like that thing, where you're like, I never saw this as a kid. We didn't have any of this as a kid. So I think it's part of that healing, and I think it's a really wonderful shift to help reduce the stigma. And again, just that idea of inclusion, and that we're all different, and some of our differences are on the outside and some of them are on the inside, whether they're making adaptive clothing to help limb different kids, they're using Velcro, like Velcro closures under buttons, so it looks like a button-down shirt, but the closures are Velcro. But then they're also making adaptive clothing for kids with sensory issues, or different mobility issues. So that's fantastic. And then to have mainstream companies like Target, Tommy Hilfiger, Zappos, all the stuff, making these adaptive clothing lines and making them accessible. JCPenney is another one, making them accessible to the mainstream community and the mainstream store. So it's not like these parents or adults have to go searching in some weird other thing for like, oh, this is all the special needs stuff. It's out there, and it's accessible for everyone. And who's to say that, maybe a kid just doesn't like buttoning his shirt. He might have 10 fingers. He might just have a time button his shirt. The Velcro thing is a lot easier for him, Ryan, in case you care, like I only wear shoes that I don't have to tie the laces on anymore. I actually have both limbs and the 10 fingers and 10 toes, but I like the slide-ons. Yeah. I'm not lazy. It's just more efficient.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, and again, a shout out to really, and this is from the economic part of it, the Targets, the JCPenney's, all those that you referenced, because from a financial perspective, it costs them money. They might have to like design it and do these different things and go on a campaign. It could cost them hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to put a line in their stores nationwide. And so they have to do the economic analysis if it's worth it. They're not in the charity business. They're in the for-profit business.
Sure.
They have shareholders to report to. Everyone wants to, have inclusion, and it sounds good and feels good, but there's reasons why a lot of these things are uphill battles because there's money involved. So again, kudos to them, because whether they're loss leaders or they're just losses, or maybe the economic benefit is not what it's about. It is the community impact that it has, and that's not the community of Metro Detroit or even the United States. That's the global community.
Sure. But I think it's a real win-win when companies like this start doing those things. Lego just introduced a new Lego Friends character that actually they have a whole group of Lego friends with different disabilities, but one of them has a limb difference. And that's wonderful. Again, we're doing that. And then, Barbie Mermaid just came out with a new little movie, and one of the mermaids was born without a tail. So she swims with a prosthetic tail. And the other part of that movie is fantastic because Mattel made the deliberate, conscious choice to cast the actress who voices this mermaid. She's also limb different, and so that's authentic representation. I mean, it's different. We talk about this all the time about one of my other ambassadors, Angel. She was in the Hunger Games movies, and she in there it's supposed to look like maybe she lost her limb during the games, but in reality that's the way she was born. And so she's in that movie, and they're hiring limb different actors to play those limb different roles, or just a limb different actor to play a role, and it has nothing to do with their hand. Their hand doesn't even get mentioned. It's just an actor, and that's kind of where I'd like it to get to, where it's not, you're not hiring people to pretend to be limb different or pretend, or we're not CGIing out stuff. If we can hire actors to actually play, that the true character, then let's go that route, because they're out there. So it's just really cool.
I think that's fantastic. So we're going to slowly but surely wrap up the show today, but we're going to end with maybe two more topics that we'll cover quick. The first one would be what's next for Lucky Finn, but also what would you like to see, and Ryan, you're included in this, what would you like to see the future hold for the limb different community, as well as, again, where you want Lucky Finn to go?
That's a big question. That's a big question.
Big icebreaker for you.
Well, on like a small scale, like where we're literally headed into right now is the holiday season. We're going to be heading into Giving Tuesday, so we're working on campaigns for that. You'll see those coming up.
All right, so stop there. Let's do a shameless plug, okay?
Yeah.
So along with it, the holidays are here.
Yeah.
Okay, and so hint, Giving Tuesday. So with all of that, do you have any goals? Do you have, as an organization, just the more money, the merrier?
Yeah.
Or again, I mean, are there, do you have any campaigns that you're on, or what is something more specific? And please give the URL or the phone number or the, where can they go? Where can all of our listeners, our subscribers go to help the Lucky Finn Project?
So as far as Giving Tuesday goes, we will be hyping that up on all of our social media platforms. So it'll be available on our website, on our Facebook page, on our Instagram page. There'll be a link on Twitter. So that campaign will all go out. And then additionally, beyond that, we have, what else do we have going on?
You sell some merch?
Yeah. We have lots of popular merch. And then we have what are you saying, Rye?
The ornaments.
Oh yeah, the ornaments.
That's a big one.
The big ones, people go nuts. So we have an annual Christmas ornament drop. They are wonderful. They're handmade. They're one of a kind. When they're gone, they're gone.
Is there a point last year where you had to put a post up that enough already? If I can't get you one, you're not going to get one, or something like that?
I think Ryan saw a comment on Ryan saw a comment on Instagram from somebody who was upset that they felt that this was their third year trying to get an ornament and they couldn't get one, and I love that people are
They're handmade. You have someone who makes
I have
them.
an artist in New York who makes them. She's the same artist that we've been using for 10 years. So there's a continuity with the ornaments. We've had to change how many ornaments people are allowed to order per order, because people would order like 15 and just like gut the whole thing. But so yeah, we have the Christmas ornament's a big one.
Do we dare early promote the candle that's coming out?
Yes.
We have a candle that's coming out.
Candle.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, we
Never
have
done this before.
the candle's new, and it's a collaboration with another group called the Grace Effect. And how we got involved with them, number one, we're big candle people in our house. It's kind of
Love candles.
it's kind of a problem.
So-
Kind of a problem. But there's another Michigan based business called the Grace Effect. And Katie's daughter, Grace, was born with Down syndrome. And in an effort to give her daughter opportunity to have a sustainable occupation, she created this candle company. And I love all of that. I think that's a beautiful thing. So I reached out to her and said, what do you think about doing a candle collaboration? So those candles will be available. They'll be available on the Grace Effect site, which I love, because that will take our community and introduce them to that community, rather than have the candle on our platform and it all just be in-house. And just, I want people to find the Grace Effect.
Together,
Yeah.
everyone achieves more.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So that's great for the Lucky Finn project and onward and upward.
Yeah.
Now, in general, the limb difference community, maybe Ryan, for you, what do you hope the future holds for the limb difference community? Maybe that's from the children on up that have it, or the parents, or just, again, all of us as one community. What would you hope to have happen in the future?
Overall, like how it's starting to get now, like more like inclusivity,
Yeah. Inclusive,
mainstream. And then just like less of a stereotype, like more communication about it. And that's already like happened a lot. Like, there's a lot more resources out there. And I'd like to see more of that just like skyrocket and just like keep going forward.
I think that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I want, like, personally, I want to create scholarships through Lucky Finn Project for higher education. And it doesn't have to be that they're going to a college per se. If they want to go to trade school or, whatever they want to do, I want to enable that. That's something somebody came to me early on. Trace, one of our ambassadors, came on early on, back when he was about 18 years old and graduating from school, and said, do you have any scholarships? And I was like, we don't have two nickels to rub together, buddy. Like, no, but I'd love to. And now we've grown, so we can do that. And it's fun. Speaking of that young man, he now is one of our ambassadors and a children's book writer, and has written children's books featuring limb different characters. So he's part of, creating the same thing that he would have liked to see as a child, seeing a children's book with the main character being the hero and without having two hands.
Yeah, it's amazing. What a community can come together.
Yeah.
Give it a little time, a little inspiration, a little perspiration along the way. Let's end with maybe a shout out to some of the sponsors, those corporations that have helped you now. And then again, any calls to action or request. Maybe it is, let's see somebody out there who wants to kind of put the flag in the ground to get a scholarship started. The LF project, right?
Yeah.
Scholarship one, whatnot.
Yeah. If somebody could come in and help show us how to, the A, B, and C of creating a scholarship, I would absolutely appreciate that.
Okay, well, that's done. I can help you with that.
Oh,
So,
okay,
we're
okay, done.
that's
Done.
done.
Well,
Okay,
done
so
and
that's
done.
done
All right,
for
wrap
sure.
it up.
So
Cool.
yeah,
All right. I'm out. Bye.
Okay. So that's it. I absolutely will commit to that right
Okay.
there. So let's give a quick shout out to the corporate sponsors of Lucky Finn Project. And again, anything else to wrap up the show before we call it a day?
Sure. With Lucky Finn Project Weekend, our sponsors were Unlimited Tomorrows, which is a 3D prosthetic building company. Embassy Suites Troy, we've received significant donations from Great Lakes Wealth, for one, and then Warner Brothers, MTV, Johnson & Johnson. So we've been really fortunate over the years to kind of make a name for ourselves get those applications and be recognized, and get that sort of funding. And when it's that large of a windfall of cash, it's just, whew, I'm always get emotional with it. And nothing, that kind of support never gets old.
How about real quick, what do we do with it? What do we do with the money? Where does it go?
So again, it goes to enable the platforms and all the social media to produce the awareness brochures, which we distribute for free for anybody who asks for them. They just need to ask how many do you need? Where do you need me to send them? And I'll get them to you. And then the other part is to fund initiatives within the limb different community. So that might be funding a documentary about being limb different, helping fund a children's book about being limb different, creating dolls that have limb differences, helping fund with adaptations to bikes, or finding adaptations to a baseball mitt. That's a big one. If somebody would come in and help us make a custom mitt for kids, this would be such a win-win. Wilson's done it a couple times. I wish they'd commit to doing it full time. The brand loyalty will be epic. The other part is I hate to call it a business model, but there will always be limb different children. There will always be limb different children growing up. So you have the
reoccurring revenue opportunity.
It's always coming. Like that's never going to stop. So there's always going to be kids who are going to need a special mitt or a special glove when it comes to playing hockey that's accommodating but still like legit to play the sport. So we help with those things. And then of course we host LFP weekend, and then we help fund other meetups around the country. In addition to that, we help get people to get their prosthetics they need, and different campaigns with that. The other side project we've done multiple times, which is always fun, is helping get limb different animals, specifically dogs, adopted by a limb different family. So then it's a win-win for the family and the animal. So that's kind of another fun offshoot that again organically happened. But that's where all the money goes.
Ryan, for you, anything else you'd like to say to your community, your peers, your parents, community? Anybody else out there that you want to share something with?
Well, my parents, thank you for being yourselves and making me into a good person and who I am today. Very helpful.
You were a very easy kid to raise.
Okay, well,
you're a good kid.
This is me.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't
continue.
So thank you guys for that. And then for the community in general, just keep being yourselves. Like, you don't gotta be worried about anything. Like, you can be nervous a little bit, but don't let that control your life and whatever. Just be yourself and do what you want to do and keep trying to reach your goals and work hard.
Heck yeah, sounds good to me. Well, Ryan, you're an inspiration. Molly, you're an inspiration and a leader. And actually, Ryan, I'm not going to shortchange you. You're a heck of a leader as well, okay? You're a future leader. You're a leader now, but we're trying to lift up and find future leaders. That is a big part of the What Do We Do podcast. So to the Stapelmans, I really appreciate you being here. For the Lucky Finn Project, probably touching millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people around the globe. And you're just getting started. Yeah, how awesome is that? And to our listeners, our viewers, this has been season 3, episode 6, number 69 of the What Do We Do podcast. And again, with that, I always say, live your best life, be radically generous, a great big booyah to ya. It's the end of the year. Be radically generous to the Lucky Finn Project. And we have 1.5 million social media views. But we're just getting started.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or any specific security. It's only intended to provide education about the financial industry. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Any indices referenced for comparison are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. As always, please remember investing involves risks and possible loss of principal capital. Please seek advice from a licensed professional.